Hello and welcome to my storybook cottage, and thank you so much for joining me. Now, last episode I was talking about how hard it was to be a sustainable writer because it means you can only make a living if you're selling brand new books rather than recycled ones. Now, on the subject of brand new books, I've just received a box full of my brand new books, first time I've ever seen them. So I thought I would unbox them for the show, since everybody seems to do that. Let's see how this works. I'm not much good at unboxing anything. Might take a while. Very elaborate packaging. I like these things. Whatever you call that, can't remember, tells me I have 12, which is the usual amount of free copies you get as an author, 12. And here it is. Panic by Catherine Jinks. Panic is being published by Text Publishing this month, January, and should be in Australian bookshops within a week or two. So far, Text hasn't been able to sell international rights to this book, so if you're overseas and want it, you'll have to order it from Australia. So what is this book about? Well, it's a contemporary thriller like the last few I've published, like Traced and The Attack and that sort of book. And as to what it's about, I'll just read you the blurb. It's probably the easiest thing. Bronte needs a place to lie low. She posted a drunken rant that went horrifically viral. Now, jobless, friendless and broke, she's forced to volunteer as a carer on an isolated rural property. She won't be paid for looking after dementia sufferer Nell, but at least she'll have a place to stay. Bronte's host is Nell's daughter Vida, who runs a spiritual birthing retreat. She also claims the rights of a sovereign citizen and rejects the authority of the state, refusing even to register her car. She has acquired a small but devoted following. Are they harmless cranks with their conspiracy theories and outrage at government overreach, or dangerously paranoid domestic terrorists? And what is the dark secret that Nell, in her confusion, keeps harking back to? Now, the isolated rural property mentioned in that blurb is actually located near Bathurst, outside a township that I created for another novel, The Attack. So in a way, I'm formulating my own Jinksiverse. Bathurst is, of course, a real town. It's a bit over an hour's drive from here, but the township of Otford, where Bronte ends up visiting a hospital, that's all made up. However, some of the book is also set around here in the Blue Mountains. Bronte's mother and stepfather live in Katoomba, and in one of the earlier flashback scenes, Bronte visits Katoomba Police Station, which I visited for research purposes early on. And while she's there, Bronte reports an incident that may or may not have happened at a cafe near Katoomba Station. I made up the cafe, which in the book is called Bluey's, but there are a bunch of cafes near Katoomba Station. The other Katoomba location is Bronte's stepfather's house, which I've located in an area of South Katoomba that I'm very fond of. The area around Ada Street, and Dunmore Street and Commanderry Street. It's a really lovely suburban area with lots of beautiful gardens and lovely old houses, very peaceful and pretty, in contrast to what happens to Bronte in her own home. The way I describe Bronte's home in the book is a salute to some of the houses in this area. I'll just quote a description here. Our house was on a corner block surrounded by a giant hedge that concealed pretty much everything. It was a quiet street too, middle of the week, middle of the day. I could see how it had happened, one quick jab with a brick or a steering lock, then a speedy getaway through a maze of big rambling gardens. There was usually a tradies ute parked somewhere nearby, so the noise of breaking glass would have sounded like handyman stuff. Our immediate neighbours didn't work at home, and the woman across the road who didn't work at all was going deaf. If anyone saw anything, I never heard about it. What I particularly love about this area are the little country lanes tucked away here and there. They have a secretive quality that might be useful if I write another thriller. I had to do a lot of research for this book, some of it in Katoomba, but most of it online, because way back at the beginning of the pandemic, I got interested in a story about a woman who was arrested during a police siege on her property. And what really fascinated me about this woman was that on the one hand, she was very new age, she was into natural medicine and Indigenous rights and things like that. And on the other hand, her ideology was quite right-wing, with stuff about Hillary Clinton and the Vatican and the New World Order stuff, that kind of thing. And the more I delved into it, the more interested I became in this idea of, I suppose you could call it domestic terrorism, but just ordinary people living ordinary lives who maybe got into a bit of financial strife or something, or mental health issues or something, and then they kind of get guns and they get very paranoid, and suddenly it's really serious. And I thought that would make a good foundation for a thriller. This fabulous cover has a red ensign on it, and when I first started exploring the sovereign citizen movement, I noticed a lot of those red ensigns at anti-lockdown protests, and I worked out what it meant. But a lot of my friends didn't know what it meant, and I had to explain what red ensigns represented. But now, you know, everybody seems to know what it means because it's on the cover of my book. So yeah, I was kind of a bit of ahead of the curve there, but yeah, and I did a lot of research, but I've kind of pulled back now that I've finished the book, writing the book. So there you have it, the latest instalment in the Catherine Jinks adult thriller series. And if you got this far, thanks for watching a video that is essentially promotional, but at least I'm not getting paid for it.